welcome to The Exchange. This is something we're doing every month where we welcome music lovers or music makers into Radio 1 to sit on these two sofas and talk about the most important topics and themes in music today. This month we welcome three very well-known artists. Firstly, the lead singer of Bastille, Dan Smith.
Every minute and every hour,
also we have Olly Alexander from Years and Years. And last but not least, one of the most prominent rappers in the UK today, Wretch 32.
God willing, I'm praying I can make a good killing. Got my mother still praying for a race, sending barrels to Jamaica. Trying to send me to the church, got the gold crosses on me, don't work.
Dan, Olly, Wretch 32, welcome to The Exchange. It's really good to have you all here. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us. I'm very excited to be here.
We've got loads to talk about. Lots and lots to talk about. But to start off the conversation, I thought it would be good to kick off with something kind of relatively light-hearted, which is the Spotify and Tinder partnership, where now on Tinder you can have a profile song, like a music anthem. You can add it to your profile. You can also display and preview music clips from your top artists from Spotify and thus swipe to see who shares your taste in music.
Oh, God.
Wow, more info, more data.
Olly, let's start with you. How do you feel about that?
I feel like I get a bit of anxiety about that.
Yeah.
You know, because like when you feel like when you're on a date with someone on a first date and they ask you like what music you're into, that's always a bit of like a... And
it's horrible. It's the worst question ever. It's like when someone's like, "Oh yeah, like what's your favourite song at the moment?" You suddenly your mind goes blank. You're like, I don't know any music.
But would you be the type of person that, like, if they said something awful, you'd be like, "Oh, it's not the time. See you later."
I know. I don't want to be like. I feel like I don't want to be judgy like that. But you can't help it a bit.
Yeah.
If you're one of those people that's like, yeah, I love like James Blake's B-side on his first EP, but actually you just like listen to the Saturdays all day. That would be me.
It would be quite
yeah, innit? Then it can get quite catfishy on there as well.
Yeah. How would you feel? How would you feel, Wretch, if they did like some sort of a thing where they did a survey and your song was like the top profile anthem on Tinder? Would you be happy about that?
I'd feel amazing. I'd start branding a new show where all the couples can come down who linked up via that song, and then we come and perform it and we have a moment.
That's such a good idea.
Yeah, we've got to get marketing now.
Anybody out there?
Dan, how would you feel? Would you be happy about that?
Yeah.
Tinder anthem?
I guess so. I mean, it's like, that's a positive thing, right?
Yeah.
Bringing people together.
Yes. I would feel very happy about it. Maybe not as enterprising as you. I hadn't really thought of that angle.
Let's talk about the idea of your music being used in situations where you're not happy. Have you ever had that?
Well, this is super boring, but I think in the UK, your music can kind of get used in pretty much anything. So I mean, ours is not that bad, but I like get texts from my mates saying that your song just popped up in the most inappropriate TV show or whatever. And those are things you don't have control of. I don't know in a political situation. I don't know what I do.
I always love it when people when I hear our stuff on like Sun Sex and Suspicious Parents or like because I watch a lot of TV that's like that, like quite sort of I don't know. I like that kind of TV.
Match of the Day, any of that stuff?
Well, I don't watch Match of the Day, but I don't know if it's been used on that. But I did see it once get used when Cameron got re-elected and they were playing King over some like Tory montage, and it literally was like, I can't believe this has happened to me.
Did you say anything?
No, actually, I thought it better to not draw any attention to it and just sort of, because it wasn't, I had no idea, and I was like, I'll just leave it, because, do you know what I mean? I think it was like a small thing, but someone texted me and I was like, oh no.
That's horrifying. But you're right, and that applies to that situation and loads of others. Like, often if stuff comes up, you addressing it can bring so much more attention to it than it maybe deserves.
Let's talk about you guys as kind of artists with voices, you know, and obviously having those voices heard by an untold amount of people between you. Do you have someone, I will start with you, Wretch, in mind when you're in the studio and you're writing lyrics? Do you have someone that you have in your head that you're thinking about that will be listening to those lyrics? Do you picture someone in your head?
I think naturally the immediate audience that I'm used to performing to, so like young girls, younger boys, well, younger than myself, I wouldn't say young, but I say younger than myself. And yeah, there is like, and also like I always think of like younger kids from my estate, because that's the natural thing that I relate to, just growing up on the council estate with everyone out there, and just understanding the mindset and almost feeling like not being sure who to look up to and what to look up to and what's the right way to go and how you're supposed to live your life, or however you want to put it. And yeah, I kind of always have these like little teenagers in the back of my mind.
Dan, what about you? Do you have a person in mind? Is there a Bastille fan that you kind of subliminally speak to when you're writing your lyrics?
Not at all. I mean, on this record, there were a few songs where I was really stuck because I wanted to, there's a song that sort of like addresses people at the moment, be they like politicians or someone in the pub, saying stuff that you can't believe anyone in 2016 could think, let alone say out loud. And they have these huge platforms and they're influencing loads of people, and it's really messed up. But I kind of wanted to write about those kind of things, but in a like honest, personal, human way, not in a I've got an agenda or like I have something to say.
So what's wrong with having an agenda?
I don't know. I think it's a choice that you make. If you're in a band, you can be that guy that chooses to talk about the charities you support or your political beliefs or whatever. And that's amazing and it works for some people. But I think it's a real conscious choice. And for us as the band, like we are so opinionated, and we, all the things we do and think about. But there's stuff that we do.
Is there a stigma to being too political in a band? Kyle from Bastille. I feel so fortunate trying to make people go to vote because I'm just a dick in a band, quote. Is it your place to, do you have a social responsibility because you have an audience?
I think, because we sort of, when the referendum was happening, we talked about that a lot. And obviously we have very strong opinions. But I think we felt at the time that not to ever assume that anyone's actually listening to what we say, but to be like, well, just
but
I think it's
important.
You've
got loads of fans that hang on your every word.
Got a million Twitter followers.
But they follow us because of our music, not because of my beliefs. Like that, that's the thing that I always like struggle. Like my worst part of doing a gig is between songs, because I'm here because I wrote some songs in my bedroom and it happened to go mental. I'm not here because I'm a good public speaker. So that's the bit that I always find really hard. It's that it's those moments, and it's the stuff like. We're all doing this because we love music and not because we are necessarily articulate enough to speak on behalf of other people. And I think that's the thing with me, is it's never wanting to take this position for granted. Also, the song that I just talked about is very much directly having a go at people who misuse the podium they have, whatever it may be, the platform they have.
Ollie, how do you feel about that?
I do feel kind of like I'm in this position and I have a responsibility to say something, because if I want to see the world change, I've got to try a bit and move it in the direction that I think it should go in. I know that sounds really stupid or like cliche, but
I don't think it does at all. It's like the opposite.
I think, like you said, it's a choice. Like and sort of like I was trying to get out really inarticulately earlier. It's about like in any walk of life, there's some people who are gonna like bang on about their opinions, and sometimes in an amazing, like positive way, sometimes in the opposite. It's a choice. You could choose to be that guy or that girl or not.
We have a talent, and you're going to express your view on today's society in however you feel through your music, because that is what your talent is. You're just like a vessel. Like the music man gave you the powers to make songs that people are going to connect with. But then even like for like myself, sometimes I feel like I can say something through music, but then when I get asked on it, it's like I articulate it better in the song than I do in the conversation, because that's my talent. But even sometimes when I'm asked some questions, sometimes I don't know, like, just like take like the riots, for example. Like it's something that's really difficult for me to speak on, because it's not a news story for me. Like it's my mate that's been killed. But then if I'm asked a question on it, I'm frustrated. But I don't want to be sitting down like to a camera saying, I don't know, like how would you feel?
Should be frustrated.
No, of course I'm frustrated, but what I mean is like, I have to be sensible.
Driving cars with no indicators. I took a right turn with no indication. The only stimulation was intimidation. How many of my brothers are we seeing in the station? I'm getting fed up. Yeah. Remember they put the cuffs on me. I felt like I couldn't even stand up or breathe. Brother Mark never made it to custody.
I mean, obviously you've always spoken your mind, but maybe it's just the sign of the times or something, that because there is more awareness of the kind of Black Lives Matter thing and police brutality and that kind of thing. Your lyrics feel really kind of, just kind of raw, and and honest. And is that, you know, was that something that it was kind of cathartic for you? You had to get that out there. And do you ever worry about kind of being that honest on record?
Nah. Music for me is therapy. Like this is my, I don't write a diary, but this is my diary. It's just happens that it's public and people get to listen to it and read into chapters, you know what I mean? But this is like therapy. Like I actually need to do this to feel cleansed, do you know what I mean? I feel free after I get something off my chest. So it helps me to write about it more than it does to speak about it.
And do you feel like a role model? And do you ever feel pressured into feeling like that? Like you have to speak for young black men in London?
I feel like I just have to represent.
Like you talked about the kids on the estate.
Yeah, I have to represent in the right light. And I feel like that's why I'm a very positive person, like, because where I've come from was a shithole. And a lot of people are doing life and a lot of lives have been taken. And this is like, it's not a film, this is like Friends, this is serious. Like a lot of funerals have been attended, a lot of a lot of everything. And it's like, for me to be one of the lucky ones that get to kind of get out and see more, then now I'm able to kind of say, look, there's more to the world than just this estate, because I understand what it's like. It's like if you're in a jungle, that's just your natural place of birth and that's what you know. So for me, my thing is like, I want to show that, look, come out and do this, and I want to hire people and I want to inspire people, and I go to units of kids that have been kicked out of school and, you know, encourage them to kind of get back on the right track and tell them why school's important and why this is that. I'm not even in a preachy way, because as a kid, I kind of hated school, but when you can tell someone why they need it, I can say, look, I hated school, but look how English has worked out for me. You don't know how maths is gonna work out for you. So
you're Shakespeare with good hair.
It's not, yeah.
I wanted to talk about Corbyn because he's been re-elected as Labour.
My bae, Corbyn.
Your bae. You love him. You fancy him, correct?
Yeah, a bit.
Really? That would be an interesting coupling.
Jeremy Corbyn is 67, Theresa May, 59. You know, politics, it's very rare when someone comes along where you feel like there's a politician who is truly speaking directly to young people today. Yeah. But I guess this whole conversation was born out of the kind of the Corbyn being re-elected, and is there role models today for kids, and is it important for there to be role models today for kids?
And also, like, yeah, they're way older than us, but if they're going to lead a country, you kind of want someone with a lot of life experience. Yeah, I don't know. But you're right. I mean, it's really tricky. It's really tricky. Like, you know, there aren't many politicians that anyone can relate to. Like, I think it's amazing having Sadiq Khan in London, having a London mayor who isn't just a middle-aged white guy is amazing, and he's obviously Tooting born and bred. Like, it's that's awesome. But I don't know. It's kind of, I think what's important is what Jeremy Corbyn says, and I think as young people, I think it can be quite easy to be like, oh well, this is not my game. It doesn't affect me, or I don't really know what I'm talking about. I think the way it is in the UK with MPs, like you need to go and speak to your MP if you have something to say. And I think people, like, they're there to, you know, I think the more young people that go and actually say something, that's how you'll get your voice heard. You know, they're a conduit for that's what like democracy is. They're there to hopefully reflect what people think. And so it's kind of, you know, it's, if you care enough, which some people do, some people don't, it's easy to sit back and be like, just dismiss it. But like, you know, it's like our lives, our country, it's like it affects everybody. And I think if you, I don't know, apathy is just easy, isn't it?
I don't feel like I could sit down and have a great conversation with, what's the guy's name? Corbyn. I can't imagine what we'd speak about. And I'd like, but then maybe that's not what the point is. But then I feel like that should be what the point is. Because if you're representing the country, you're supposed to be representing almost everybody that lives here. So,
but you know what, as well, like, I can't speak for him because I've never met the guy. But I think you might be surprised though with someone like him. He seems like someone who's pretty engaged.
Right, you mentioned Sadiq Khan, and that kind of leads us nicely into the next thing I want to talk about, which is
Tinder.
club culture. And one of the most significant things he's done since he's become mayor of London is appoint a new job, which is that of a night czar, which is someone whose direct responsibility is nightlife.
I love they give it czar as well, just to make it
sounds
just,
so like,
as if it wasn't already quite a cool sounding job. It could be night czar.
And obviously there's more and more of a calling for this person, because, you know, we've just had the night tube introduced in London, but there ain't anywhere to go anymore because all the clubs are closing. 50% of clubs in the UK have closed in the last 10 years. So it's
In the
really
UK?
significant clubs in London as well. You know, the End and Turnmills and Bagley's and the Cross and the Key and
Fabrics, of
Plastic
course.
People,
Yeah,
and like you can so many, but most significantly recently Fabric. First of all, how did you each individually individually feel when you heard the news of Fabric's closure? Was that something that meant something to you?
Yeah, because it's a venue that I've been in, that I've seen. I haven't performed many times in there, but a lot of my friends have gone in there and performed. And like all these buildings, I always say like there's history under all that dust. And it might not mean nothing to you, but to a load of people it means something too. So sometimes you should listen to people, and yeah, you know, in obviously in the line of work that I'm in as well, like it's never nice hearing that.
So Fabric was shut down because of fatalities, because people died from doing drugs. And there's a huge conversation to be had with regards to drug use, trying to kind of do harm reduction rather than kind of refusing to accept that people take drugs in clubs. Is it like, do you introduce drug testing? They do that up in
Secret
Manchester
Garden Party,
now.
they do it as well.
They did it at Secret Garden Party.
It just seems ridiculous. Like closing a club, taking away the club, is not going to stop people from taking drugs.
Taking drugs, yeah.
I understand the connection, and I think that something does need to be done. I don't know what it is, but I think that kind of reaction seems illogical to me. You know, people are just going to be taking
It
drugs.
feels like that was just that was kind of used as a headline excuse.
Yeah.
But you're right.
It's not going to stop the fact that that's going to be taking place wherever it is.
It's happening in other cities where they have introduced drug testing
In clubs.
in clubs. So they obviously, you do everything you can to prevent drugs getting in the club, but then there's an acceptance that people are going to take the drugs they have on them, and it's kind of trying to prevent people from harming themselves by overdoing it or taking the wrong thing.
Well, that seems good, and they're in a space then as well where there is help.
Is it possible to have a healthy club culture without drugs?
Do you think it would be the same experience?
I don't know whether Britain has a different culture of consumption than other countries. That seems slightly more extreme.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I think it's like a very complex issue, and it impacts on so many different levels. I think, you know, if people were educated about the risks of taking drugs, and, you know, what to do in an overdose, or what to do if something wrong happens, how to look after your friends, how to, you know, if we could properly educate people and people were informed enough, it's not a trivial thing, you know, like drugs, it ruins people's lives, and like obviously it doesn't ruin everyone. Like the thing is, like, you can have an experience with drugs and be fine, and also you can have experience, and it can ruin the rest of your life and your family's life. I just think it's not something that should be kind of like,
Oh no, not at all.
they
not
go
at
hand
all.
in hand, dance using drugs. I'm not saying that's what you were
Yeah,
saying,
yeah.
but I think it's just an important.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? Just because I just feel like it irritates me how there's not enough kind of real conversation about it, about the impacts, the effects, what you can do. Do you know what I mean? About a real conversation about how drugs affect you, and because if you're a vulnerable person, and I think this kind of feeds into really why anyone might end up abusing drugs or abusing a substance abusing, because they're a vulnerable person, it could just damage you so much, and I think that's people should be really aware of that.
Weird, isn't it? Because it feels like it's taboo to talk about doing drugs.
Yeah.
It feels like it's taboo to also talk kind of openly about the mental effect of drugs.
Yeah, definitely. I think people sometimes want to, you know, appear kind of like more relaxed about drugs because it's kind of just a bit cooler, or it doesn't seem kind of like it's a big problem. They don't want to seem kind of like uptight or whatever. And then I think at the same time, there's just a real fear that people will be like reprimanded or, you know, judged for drug use. And no one should be stigmatized for using drugs. You know, addicts shouldn't be stigmatized at all. We should be helping people, and there should be support available. So,
Do you think there's not enough support and help in terms of mental health as a result of drug use and
absolutely,
addiction?
I think, absolutely, yeah. We talk about addicts like they're ill, and I mean, in one way, that is you know, we stigmatise it in a way that's sort of shameful, and people are then afraid to talk about their own experiences, or, you know, to really seek the help that they need. And I think, you know, mental health services in the NHS have been cut dramatically year on year, and we're facing a crisis, basically, in this country, a mental health crisis, well, in all parts of the NHS, but especially with mental health, because so much funding has been cut, and it's a huge problem, you know. Am I making sense? I feel like I'm rambling.
No.
I think especially within music, you know, just bringing it back to what you guys do, it feels rife.
Yeah.
The amount of performers and DJs I know who suffer this crazy roller coaster of, you know, highs and lows, medicated and not medicated. You know, it's kind of, it's a very, and it feels weird saying, oh, it's a tough life out there, but you know, it psychologically it can be really taxing, and there's no rule book, there's no support, there's no one to help you through this.
You kind of just rely on the thought that people can know what they're capable of handling, almost. Do you know what I mean? Because like seeing people like on like pills and stuff, that was like some mad new experience.
Can you remember when you saw that for the first time?
Yeah, like when first starting doing festivals, I wasn't used to that, and I was like, does he need help? Is he going to be all right? Kind of thing was quite shocking, because I'm used to seeing people drunk and maybe smoking weed and just a bit cooler. But then when I'm seeing people moving different, I didn't even really know how to take it. But then the sad thing is, you almost become desensitized to it, innit? Because you're performing to this kind of crowd every other day or whatever, and as long as like nothing bad has happened at your show that you've seen directly, you don't really even necessarily think about the full effects of these things, if that makes any sense. Like, I suppose if there's a bad experience that happens at your show, someone's rushed backstage and, this theatrics and then you'd be like, wow, this is actually like, but to me, it's just like, I don't know, like I just assume that they do that and then they have a great day and everybody goes home and everyone's fine. That's just my assumption.
But
do you know what I mean?
It is like, I think like what you were saying, you know, there's the two sides of it. Like the part that we see in our jobs is people when they're trying to have a really good time or having a really good time. I feel like, and maybe I'm really naive, but the conversation is about not doing it and not about people do this. Let's make that healthier and let's make it more open and the repercussions, like you said.
So what you feel like people should be encouraged to not do drugs?
What I meant was that like it's maybe healthier and more important for the conversation to be about what happens when people do them.
Oh,
like
I see.
You were saying before.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Of like, let's accept that, you know, even if it's not necessarily a good thing to do, that it's going to happen. Like you were saying, you know, in testing in clubs, like
in the same way people
like the education
drink alcohol and
that's completely socially acceptable.
Yeah,
it's kind of mind-altering substances seem to be a kind of rite of passage for a lot of people at some point in their life.
I think a lot of people are going to be faced with at some point, but if you are as informed as you can be about that decision, and it's not you're not doing it, you know, you're not peer pressured, or, you know, there's so many instances where the risk's so high, and if you're informed, you're more likely to make the right decision. It's just important that I just really wish people were more informed about the risks of drugs.
So what would you do? Now, what's the answer?
I know, I don't know.
I know, that's the thing. That's the thing. Like it's.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I definitely didn't really have I learned about. I didn't have an education about drugs, like at school. No one was teaching me really. I mean, actually, there were a couple of things where maybe we were sort of explained about what different drugs were and some of the harm, but that could happen. But I think it was mainly sort of not talked about. I don't know.
I think so. So I feel like I'm massively repeating this and copying your point, but it is. I feel like any education that I had. Sorry, mate. I feel like any education that I might have had was very much of the like, just don't do it because it's bad for you, in this kind of like big taboo, you know, of not actually engaging with situations where it would happen, or, you know, it's just like, don't give in to peer pressure and drugs are bad and all that kind of stuff, which is completely true. But I don't know, of engaging with it in a slightly more complex and realistic way as well.
How do we do that?
I don't know. It's definitely not up to us.
Yeah.
I mean, we could talk for about 6 hours on
I
that alone.
know.
So many things.
It's mental. Guys, thank you so much. That was really fun.
It's been good, man.
Yeah.
It's been good.
Really appreciate your time.
It's been fun, man. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.